Hi, welcome to my first ever video. This video is going to be about political debates on education, what they're about, and what they basically mean. So, this is what I'm going to be discussing in the video. First, I'll begin by discussing the history of education, evolution, affirmative action, integration, and busing, and what all of these things mean today. Then, the No Child Left Behind Act, which is pretty well known and pretty heavily debated. After that, we'll take a look at the debate over school vouchers or increased funding for schools and also affirmative action in greater detail. After that, I'll talk about the Department of Education and we can conclude with the issues relating to college and higher education. So let's begin with evolution. The theory of evolution was proposed by Charles Darwin, an English naturalist and biologist, during the 19th century, and it stated that the traits of humans and other creatures change over time to adapt to changing circumstances. Evolution was a controversial topic in the 1920s, and it was rejected by a lot of people for religious reasons or because they didn't believe in evolution. The teaching of evolution was illegal in some states during this time, such as Tennessee. And there was one teacher in Tennessee who taught evolution, and so there was a lawsuit against him by the state of Tennessee, and it went to the Supreme Court in 1925. But today, other topics such as affirmative action are more heavily debated. There isn't that much debate on evolution anymore, no, or not as much as there was during the 1920s. Affirmative action. During the 1960s, Lyndon Johnson's Great Society programs included an extensive overhaul of educational segregation in the South, which included integration, busing, and affirmative action. Affirmative action occurs in hiring as well as higher education. And under affirmative action, race can be used as a factor in considering college applications. More specifically, it's generally used to ensure racial equality in classrooms and the workforce. It's kind of used to combat discrimination and make sure that, like, a certain employer isn't only hiring white people. It's kind of used for equality in classrooms and the workforce. Some colleges also applied quotas, which were racial requirements that determined how many people of each race are selected. So they basically selected a minimum number of people from each race. So, for example, this many African Americans and this many Latinos. Quotas are controversial and not used that often, although affirmative action is frequently used and heavily debated. I'm going to talk more about this and the debates over this later in the video. Integration and busing. So Brown v. Topeka Board of Education, also known as Brown v. Board of Education, was a landmark Supreme Court ruling which stated that schools had to be racially integrated. However, this policy was not enforced in the South, and the federal government intervened. In 1956, Arkansas's governor, Orville Forbes, announced that Arkansas would not integrate its schools. And as a result, federal troops from the National Guard came into Little Rock, Arkansas, to escort 9 African Americans into a formerly all white school. Johnson called for the desegregation of schools in the South through his bill, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which was passed by Congress and which he signed into law. So there was little funding for schools designated for African Americans. So Johnson ordered that these African American students be bused to different, better schools in more white neighborhoods. Previously, there had been less funding for African American schools and more funding for all white schools. But now he ordered that African American students be bused to the whiter neighborhoods where the schools were better. This became known as busing. Busing was a kind of controversial policy which a lot of people argued was necessary, but which some people argued was disruptive. As a result of African American children entering previously white only schools, some white parents began sending their children to private school. which were predominantly white, marking the rise of private schools during the 1960s. The No Child Left Behind Act. So, the No Child Left Behind Act occurred way more recently and is pretty well known and heavily debated. The No Child Left Behind Act was one of George W. Bush's signature policies in regards to education, and it passed Congress in December 2001. The bill required standardized testing for schools that receive federal funding. The bill also called for adequate yearly progress, or AYP, which basically meant that students in a certain grade for a certain year had to perform better on average than the students of the grade the previous year. So let's say the second graders in a school district in Kansas in 2020. The second graders in 2021 in that school district in Kansas need to do better than the ones in 2020. And AYP was used to measure that. And failing to meet AYP standards would result in consequences. Not achieving AYP for 2 consecutive years would mean that the school would be labeled in need of improvement, which would basically require a 2 year plan for test improvement in the subject which the school didn't meet AYP standards, and also giving students the option to transfer to another school in that district. Not achieving AYP for 3 consecutive years could result in the school having to offer free tutoring to struggling students. Not achieving AYP for 4 consecutive years means it requires corrective action, which could include the removal of staff or increasing class time. Not achieving AYP for 5 consecutive years could lead to plans to restructure the entire school. These plans would be written and drawn out, but they would be enacted if the school didn't achieve AYP for the 6th consecutive year. The plan may be converting the school to a charter school, which is basically a school that receives government funding but operates independently from the school district. So it's like an independent school, but it still receives federal funding. Or it could mean even shutting down the entire school. But in the beginning, the bill was pretty popular and it had a lot of bipartisan support. But as time passed and the bill was more controversial and debated, Congress also became against it. And in 2015, Congress effectively repealed it and replaced it with the Every Student Succeeds Act. So let's discuss affirmative action and the debates about it more specifically and more uh, and with more detail. Affirmative action was a large part of LBJ's Great Society programs. Affirmative action was used in hiring and college selection. It's basically favoring people of a particular race, usually minorities, as well as women. And it basically takes race as a factor. So you can favor minorities. For example, if there are two college applicants with the same grades, and one of them is African American and one of them is white, the college may choose the African American applicant. They may also take race into account, and they may determine the African American. That might be affirmative action. Quotas can be also used to enforce affirmative action by requiring a minimum number of students of a particular race. For example, they can require 20% of the people are African American or 25% of the people are Latino. But quotas themselves are controversial and not frequently implemented because, like, putting specific numbers can be controversial. Like, let's say it requires 20% of the people to be Latino, but in the particular district, only 15% of the Latinos are actually in the top part of the college, or in the top on the top part of the applicants. So then it could be unfair. So quotas are not frequently implemented. The idea of affirmative action itself is also debated. Some argue that they are justified in helping minorities to right past wrongs. For example, during the first half of the 20th century, African Americans were discriminated against and had to attend segregated schools that were often lower in quality to the schools which white students attended. Others argue that affirmative action is another form of racism by punishing white students or Asian students who earn good grades. They called for the policy of color blindness, which basically means not using race as a factor at all in selecting college or job applicants. So you don't favor whites, but you don't favor African Americans. That's one argument. The other argument is that it's fair and it's used to uh, kind of make up for past wrongs to an extent. Another debate is the debate for school vouchers or increased funding. It's widely acknowledged by politicians that a lot of public schools across the country are of low quality and do not teach students well. Not all schools, but it is the case in a lot of public schools in the country. It's especially true for schools in majority minority areas or areas where some minority ethnicity can form a majority of the population. But politicians are split along partisan lines about what the solution to this problem is. Generally, Democratic and liberal politicians argue that this problem can be fixed by increasing funding for these schools, although there are some exceptions to this rule. Republicans and conservative politicians, on the other hand, usually argue that this problem can be fixed by giving school vouchers to lower income students. There are some exceptions, but school vouchers would help pay for students to attend private schools rather than continue to attend public schools. The counter argument over here, which Democrats and liberals make, is that since a majority of private schools are religious, giving school vouchers to students to attend private school could violate the separation of church and state. Further, they can point out that religious private schools are generally less expensive to attend than non religious private schools, which might further increase the probability that students with vouchers will attend religious private schools, since they are largely come from low income areas and in some cases may not be able to afford the non religious private schools. So, if you're giving school vouchers and a student uses it to attend a religious private school, some people argue that that could be a violation of church and state. Now, moving on to the Department of Education. I'm going to cover this topic very briefly, although there are some debates on this as well. It was established in October 1979 to kind of determine national policies of public schools on like debates on education. Uh, the key figure in this department is the Secretary of Education, who's currently Miguel Cardona. The Department of Education was created under Democratic President Jimmy Carter. Democrats usually support national policies for education. A lot of Republicans generally support the idea that education is a local matter or a state matter, and some even favor abolishing the Department of Education altogether. Lastly, now let's talk about college and higher education. The cost of college and other higher education has ballooned in recent years. The cost of college and higher education leaves graduates saddled with college debt and students' loans. So, to pay for college, students take student loans. Paying for these loans is a problem because a lot of the time, upon their graduation, students don't immediately find jobs, or if they do, not necessarily, they can't necessarily afford to pay their debt. It's been suggested, usually by Democrats, that student loan debt be abolished or that the cost of college is removed. Liberals and Democrats also support the notion of cost free community college to help people attend college for free. But usually, conservative and Republicans don't favor this idea. Anyway, that's the end of this video, and thank you for watching my first ever video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you liked it, please like and subscribe to my channel.